pain that you've caused me. First, we'll see who's behind the mask. I can look into your eyes as you die. No. It can't be.
The Nun II is the latest Conjuring universe horror movie where the heroes must find a way to defeat the evil supernatural nun. Once again.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Which isn't so easy because the nun's actions and abilities seem to shift and change in every scene based on what the plot in the moment needs them to be. And in a general sense, we should be living in a golden age of horror now, because the tools at filmmakers' disposal are better than ever. Which, on the technical side, is often the case, even with this film. The visuals work and the monster offers a lot of potential. You know, the camera follows up digital smoke to reveal the nun in the shadows. That's an on-camera scare enhanced with photoreal computer imagery. Great! But that being said, The Nun II also represents the biggest problem in the horror genre today, which is that it's a scary movie that isn't scary. You won't be biting your nails or calling for your mama in dread here. At most, your eyes might blink a couple times. Even that, only thanks to the most basic horror blueprint that we see everywhere nowadays. Just have something jump up on screen and play a loud sound.
Why are you screaming? When many little happen.
And what's most frustrating about the failure at horror here is that it's due to the exact same problems that keep happening again and again. This movie is made by the director of The Curse of La Llorona, and it's basically the same. The reasons that movie wasn't scary are the reasons this movie isn't scary, which are the reasons most modern horror movies aren't scary.
It's the baby!
And it's not because the filmmakers don't know what the issues are. They do. They're incredibly obvious. They just don't care because they're relying on the horror audience being the dumbest and least demanding audience out there. Why fix what's broken when you can just peddle the same crap and be successful?
I made this for you.
Thanks.
I've covered this before, but essentially the problems with modern horror fall into three major categories. The character side experiencing the horror, the monster side creating the horror, and the world side where the horror takes place. In each of these categories, there are fundamental issues that reduce technically competent scares into incompetent garbage. And since modern horror movies keep stumbling into them, I'll keep pointing them out. Here's why most scary movies today aren't scary and what you need to avoid to be able to stand among the few that actually are. On the character side, the reason this movie isn't scary is because it fails to emotionally convey the fear through the characters. One part of this problem is that we just don't know or care enough about characters to care what happens to them. In the beginning, we meet this French kid and a priest, and then eerie stuff begins to immediately happen.
What the hell? They went up before they were on the floor.
Which doesn't work because we know nothing about these people as people. We don't know their personal lives or relationships or aspirations or anything. We have no clue why it's bad if something bad happens to them. Pretty much all we do know is negative, like that the boy is a self-entitled brat.
Go fetch the wine.
Why don't you go fetch wine?
Pardon?
Nothing.
Which more so makes us want something bad to happen. And the key thing to understand is that movies aren't video games. We're not afraid for ourselves. We're not worried about our own safety. The only safety we can worry about is that of the characters, which requires us to first care about it. It's okay to build up the monster in a prologue by having it kill random blank shells, but it's not the same as true horror, and the more you rely on it, the less effective things get.
I don't care.
Another side of the problem is the lack of a true struggle for survival. In the beginning, the characters walk out to the hall and see the nun, and then that's already it, game over. The priest floats into the air to burn alive, and we cut away. Same at the girls' boarding school where we go to next. This random courier shows up and sees the nun and scrambles away, and then the nun already has her. Game over, she's killed, and we cut away. You know, the endgame section of the scares where the character has to do something to survive is so non-existent that there's no time to be scared for the survival. Right? And if you look at video games again, the horror comes from the fact that it's not a cutscene, from us having control. We gotta do something specific to survive. The fear comes from the looming possibility that we're gonna fail. That's what you need in movies too, but through characters. Have your build-up, but also leave room for the character's struggle, a section with something specific that must be achieved in order to cling to life. Because if you just build your scare and then end things before the endgame really even began, there's no time for fear either. Why would I fear game over if it's already so clearly game over?
She's so getting it.
Another side of this problem is the lack of character vulnerability. There are way too many scares here where we know that the person involved will be fine because they've been established to have some sort of plot armor. After the beginning, for example, the main story moves into this boarding school for girls where one girl gets locked in this abandoned chapel, and of course the nun is there to haunt her. And to be fair, this scene works pretty well. We want the girl to survive and there is room for her efforts to survive. But the issue more so comes with the end of it. What we at this point clearly know is that if the nun wanted to do something to the girl, it would've. And because it didn't do so here, it most likely won't do so in the next scene either, because it already had an easy chance to do it. The girl will be fine, at least for now she has plot armor. The main hero will be fine, at least for now she's nowhere near where the nun is. There's no possibility of a game over, which is why there's no fear of a game over.
The point is that we shouldn't be able to immediately know whether a character will survive the scare or not.
And overall, all of that is a bummer because there's a lot of potential here. For example, most character build-up goes to the girl, her teacher mother, and the groundskeeper. There's a love triangle there where the girl wants those two to get together because it'll be great for everyone. And since both the girl and the groundskeeper have plot armor, there's a great opportunity with the mother. If she gets a scare scene, we'd be all in. We would desperately want her to survive because of her daughter. She would desperately struggle to survive because of her daughter. And there's a big chance she wouldn't survive because the nun wants to get her away from her daughter. And yet, there's not a single scare scene in the movie with the mom. Only at the end when she's not important anymore. And even then, only as part of a larger group, which is another dumb idea because it's really tough to create true fear when there's multiple people there to share it. What a waste. On the monster side, the reason this movie isn't scary is because the monster is too inconsistent to maintain the fear. The obvious part of this is that the nun's abilities and power level are all over the place. First, it lifts the priest up with its mind to burn him, then it lunges at the courier to physically strangle her, then it reanimates the headmaster's dead son to give her a smackdown, and then it takes a painting of a goat to make it real. It's all fine until you stop to think about why are these methods so different? I don't know, and neither does the movie. Sometimes it's proposed that the nun's methods come from exploiting people's fears and emotional scars.
It will take any form, and it will choose its form to prey on your fears and the fears of those around you.
But then other times it just haunts and insta-kills people without any fears or scars being established. Its methods seem to change based on what the individual scares need them to be.
Something very familiar about all this.
Same with the strength. Initially, the nun is established to be powerful enough to move on its own and insta-kill, but then later on it's trapped inside the groundskeeper's body. Now it's suddenly punching people. Now it can suddenly be physically challenged and knocked unconscious and tied down. What the f? You know, it's as if the nun suddenly isn't even trying anymore.
Hello, sister.
Which it isn't, because at this point, the story can't have that. Another side of the problem is that the nun's motives and intentions are either way too vague or specific. At first, it's killing everybody in its path, but then suddenly not. It doesn't kill when it can. Turns out it didn't even harm the church boy. Why? Why does it lure in and kill a random courier but not the boy who already saw it? Why does it bother going after some random girls who aren't even in its path? Well, because the writer said so. The boy can't die because the story needs him. The courier needs to die because we need a scary moment here. And the schoolgirls need to get chased at the end because there's nothing else for them to do. You know, the nun's actions are born from the requirements of the scenes rather than the other way around.
Sitting here and I'm going, what is he doing there? Ah, da-da-da-da, like this in the background. What the f?
Except for some cases where the motive problem is the opposite. What we learn around the midpoint is that the nun is after this MacGuffin medallion that makes it powerful, which is incredibly degrading. Oh, we have this supernatural monster whose motive is as naturally simple as getting a MacGuffin of power, same as everybody else. Well, now I understand the nun enough to think that it should be fairly simple to survive. Now I see it in such familiar light that there's no shadow left to fear.
Oh, that is an Avengers level threat.
And I guess this also leads to the humanizing issue. When the nun, for example, is knocked out along with the groundskeeper and tied down, it makes it seem very familiarly human. Oh, it's so similar to me in its efforts and physical limitations that it's basically me. Well, that's not so scary. Plus, there's also the fact that the nun's blanket of oppression is spread way too thin. We know that the nun is in one place and the hero in another, so there's really no reason to fear for the hero until the finale. Aside from some expositionary visions,
Exposition time!
the nun's reach of oppression isn't present in multiple scenes, which makes the oppression feel light. And it's also shared way too much. Everybody in this movie seems to know that the nun exists, even adults, which means that it's not that bad because we're all in this together. The oppression gets lighter with each hand that carries it. Watch the movie for more examples, but my point is to be consistent with your monster. Pennywise was sensical in that it needed to first prey on the kids' fears to become strong, while also being mysterious enough to maintain fear of the unknown.
Fear is a choice. I'm taking fear out. Fear is out. Fear is out. Exactly. And remember that to everyone watching. Exactly.
The monster in the first half of It Follows is arguably one of the most effective ever created because nobody else can see it and because there's always an oppressive sense that it's coming. It might be right there by now. And the moment that movie started being inconsistent with that, to share the oppression and to break its own rules simply for cool scares, like by having the monster suddenly strategize and stand naked on a roof, the whole thing was ruined. It's that exact issue that touches most supernatural monsters today, like the nun. There's so much potential for fear, yet it's ruined because the fear isn't consistent. On the world side, the reason this movie isn't scary is because the world of the fear is too incompetent for the fear to function properly. The first part of this is that there's not enough context under the scares. We begin with a boy running into a church in France, after which he goes to the cellar, and already eerie music begins to play as if things are getting scary. But it's like, we barely even know where we are. We've been given no basis to be scared. Same when the courier arrives at the boarding school. A door opens on its own and therefore now it's scary. Except it's not, because there's been no build-up of any dangers being present in this place. What exactly even is this place? You know, it's as if the movie takes fear for granted based solely on the fact that it's a horror movie. Oh, it doesn't matter that the hero has been shown to be nowhere near the nun. It's a horror movie called The Nun, and therefore we should always be scared of the nun. No, you can't just do scary stuff. You have to establish the basis for the scares within the context of the scenes. Then there's the physical side of the world, where the issue is that it's way too open. We're almost always in these massively spacious rooms and hallways and streets, which lack that uncomfortable claustrophobic feel. In the church, for example, we're here and the nun is all the way over there. It just doesn't pack that instinctive flight or flight punch. Obviously, not every location can be restrictive, but I'm just saying that the more you restrict visibility and space and the ability to flee, the scarier it will feel.
They're just looking at you.
Then there's the fact that the scares in this world are sourced by sheer idiocy. Oh, the church knows that the devil has returned, yet they only send one sister to deal with it. Oh, the hero sees something that is clearly some kind of supernatural ambush, yet she gets closer alone anyway so that she can be quote-unquote attacked. Oh, the schoolgirls leave the safety of the room to investigate a noise upstairs.
Take a look.
For no real reason or purpose other than so that they too can get in trouble. All of which is a bad idea because the audience isn't too forgiving with characters acting dumb just so that scary stuff can happen. If you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. If the church wants to lose this badly, then maybe they deserve to lose.
As you can see, the more you around, the more you're gonna find out.
And then there's the fact that the ultimate resolution is generic nonsense unrelated to the film's specific nature. The nun ultimately gets the MacGuffin of power and tries to burn the hero, but then the hero doesn't burn because the writers say so.
No.
And then the hero prays and suddenly wine smashes out to destroy the nun. My only weakness, dying! And that's it. What the f? I've covered this point multiple times in other videos, but I'll do it again. It's essential for your conclusion to come from the specific rules and purpose of your world. Why is this water-related ghost killed by stabbing it in the chest? Why is this possessive demon killed by making wine fly at it?
Well, because it's a religious demon and wine is the blood of Christ, and therefore...
Shut your f***ing mouth! No problem, John. Shut the f*** up, you c***!
This resolution is so nonsensically generic that you could apply to every single demon movie ever made. It's dumb. It's like, it can't be that difficult to at least try. You know, Jafar's existence revolves around being the most powerful being in the world, and thus his resolution comes specifically from that.
Phenomenal cosmic powers! Come on, you're the genie!
I mean, it's not rocket science. And the worst part is that the filmmakers know that. There's no way they haven't learned from their own mistakes by now. They just don't care. Apparently, they firmly believe that the horror audience is full of casual idiots with no standards, and thus there's no need to start fixing these inherent flaws that occur in most major horror movies today.
What is he doing there? Well, somebody should be f***ing watching and keeping an eye on him. Do you understand? My mind is not in the scene if you're doing that.
And until we, the audience, stop giving them money until these mistakes are fixed, it's gonna remain the same. And I'll be right here every time.